All right, in this video, we're going to talk about multi-step equations. Essentially, it's the same stuff we've been working on recently. It's just the equations are a little bit longer, require a little bit extra to work. So if I were to give you an equation, it looks like this, where it's a 4 parentheses x plus 5 equals 32. I'm going to draw that line down the middle. Now, the key with answering these questions is staying organized. Because as we go through this course, the equations get a little bit more complicated each time. So the thing that should stand out in this question is that you have a distribution that you have to do before anything else, right? So we covered distribution in a couple videos ago, and that's the idea of you taking that number on the outside and multiplying it to everything on the inside. So that gives us 4 times x, which is 4x, and 4 times 5, which is 20. Okay, the right side we have not changed yet, so it's still 32. So whenever you see that, that's the first thing you have to do is you have to distribute before you can do anything else. Now if you look at it, now we're back down to a two-step equation, which is what we were working on previously. Remember, whatever's attached to the variable you can save for later. So let's focus in on that 12. It's a positive 12, so the inverse would be minus 12. Whatever I do to one side, I'm doing to both. Okay? These cancel out because it's a zero pair. Bring down the leftovers, 4x. 32 minus 20 gives you 12. And notice now we're down to a one-step equation. So as you can see, we start at an equation that looks a little more complicated, but each time we do something, it gets a little bit easier along the way. Okay, we went from a distribution, then down to a two-step equation. Now we're down to a one-step equation where we have to get rid of that 4. Remember, when it's attached like that, 4x, that's multiplication. So we're going to get rid of the 4 by dividing. Again, whatever you do to one side, make sure you do it to both. And 12 divided by 4 gives you 3. Okay, notice we stayed organized the entire way. I highly recommend you guys are drawing those lines where the equal sign should be so you can see exactly the left side and the right side. Okay, do one thing at a time because otherwise it's very easy to get lost. Okay, let's try one more together. It's gonna be a little bit more complicated. Remember, that's gonna be the pattern with these questions is the steps are gonna be kind of the same, but there's just more parts to it. Okay, so if I give you this, 6 plus 5 parentheses m plus 1 equals 26. Okay? All right, so again, the thing that should stand out is that you do have a distribution in this question. We can distribute that 5, right? So let's go ahead and take care of that. Okay, so we're going to start by distributing. Okay, so 5 times m gives you 5m. 5 times 1 gives you 5. And the pieces that we did not use, make sure you bring straight down. Notice that 6 in the beginning, that wasn't part of the distribution, right? It's just kind of hanging out by itself. So make sure you bring that down as well. Okay? All right, the next thing you should notice is that on the left-hand side, we have two sets of numbers, right? We have 5m, and we have a 5 and a 6. So what we can do before moving on is we can actually combine like terms to make things a bit easier for us. So as long as they're on the same side, like the positive 6 and the positive 5, we're just going to combine them as they are, right? So 5 plus 6 gives you 11. And then we're going to bring everything else down. So bring down that 5m and bring down that 26. Okay, remember the only time you want to do opposites is when you're trying to move something from one side to the other side. If they're on the same side of the equation, you can just combine them like we did. 6 plus 5 gave us 11. Okay, so for that step, we combined like terms, CLT, combined like terms. And then now we're down to a two-step equation. So notice it gets easier each step along the way. Okay? So again, we want to keep the part attached to the variable for later. So we're going to save that 5 for later. Let's take care of that 11. Some students were confused by this. When there's no symbol in front of it, that's implied that it's a positive, right? So to get rid of it, we're going to subtract. Okay, whatever I do to one side, do to the other. Notice I'm moving it around this time. That's why I'm doing the opposite. Okay, so 11s cancel out, and I get 5m equals 15, not 25, 15. Okay, and now we can just get rid of that 5 by dividing. Because now we're down to a one step. So divide by 5, divide by 5. And we get m is equal to 15 divided by 5, which gives us 3. Okay. So again, the individual steps are not super difficult. The difficulty is making sure that you stay organized and you know what the next step is. Okay. So organization is going to be key for these questions. All right, I want to put one more on the screen that I want you to try. And again, whenever we do this, make sure you are actually pausing the video and trying it on your own. Don't be afraid to make mistakes, because that's how you're going to learn. All right, so if I give you an equation like so, 3 parentheses, negative 6n minus 5 is equal to 75. Okay? There are going to be some bigger numbers in this equation, so if you need a calculator, don't be afraid to use one. That's perfectly acceptable. Okay? All right, go ahead and pause the video at this point, and then try it out. And then when you're ready to check your answer, go ahead and press play. All right, so hopefully you're ready to check your answer. Hopefully you've tried it. Remember, don't be afraid to make a mistake. You can always go back and fix it. So the first thing that should stand out is the distribution. So we're going to distribute 3 to both parts in our parentheses. So 3 times negative 6n, 3 times negative 6 gives you negative 18. Again, you can use a calculator if you need to, not a big deal. 3 times negative 5 gives you negative 15. And then let's bring down that 75 because we haven't used it yet. All right, so now we're down to a two-step equation. So we're going to get rid of that 15. Okay, the opposite of a negative 15 would be positive 15. Whatever I do to one side, I'm doing to the other. These cancel each other out. I'm going to bring down that negative 18n. And 75 plus 15 gives you 90. Okay, so here's what I was talking about with the larger numbers. You may need a calculator for this one, which is not a big deal. So let's get rid of that negative 18. We have to divide by negative 18, both sides. And if you need to use a calculator, that's fine. If you plug it in, you should get that 90 divided by negative 5. 90 divided by negative 18 gives you negative 5.